Okay, and we're live. All right. Welcome back, folks, to another great week. Today, we're talking all about kids and dogs. I know I get a lot of questions about them from my clients. We have Michelle here that specializes all in kids and dogs and stuff. So I'm going to give her a moment to kind of tell you guys what she does, and then we'll hop into some kids and dog stuff.
Great. Thank you, Pam. It's so
Yeah,
nice for you to have invited
yeah,
me. I really appreciate it.
no
My name
problem.
is Michelle Stern. I'm a mom of two kids who are now in college, which is crazy. I was a teacher for 16 years and I'm a dog and child specialist. So I'm a certified professional dog trainer like Pam is. I'm
Mhm.
a licensed family dog mediator in the kids division. And I'm a dog behavior consultant. So I like both ends of the leash, which is
Yeah.
not always the case with all dog trainers. A lot of people love just the dog part, but I love the whole family part.
Uh,
And as
mhm.
a parent, I have so much empathy for what the parents are going through and all of the emotion and the stress and just trying to get through the day when you've got kids and dogs.
Exactly. And it's a lot. And so that's why I wanted to do this live and bring you in too, because as Michelle said, I work with a lot of kids and families. She works with a lot of kids and families, especially specialized in this. And so what I wanted to talk about first, because I get a lot of questions and when I go into clients' home about kids and nipping with the
Yeah.
dogs and kids. And ideally, one thing I talk about with my clients is management. That's like the first thing beyond doing any type of training with the kids is talking about, active management when you're around, not non-active management and things of such. Because it's really important that you do manage the dog when they're around your kids and not just leave them alone. What sort of things do you have your clients do when it comes down to dogs and kids and a nipping?
Yeah, I love that you said that. I mean, I think honestly, management is the first line of defense because if we can prevent the dog from having access to the child, then the dog's not going to be nipping the child, right?
Yep,
The problem is a lot of people don't like that answer and they feel like we're not actually addressing the problem. Do you
exactly.
feel like that too? Yeah.
Yes, I feel like that too. Yes,
So
yes.
it's really interesting because honestly, that is the answer. It's just not the answer they want. And so
Yeah.
I feel like when you and I then work with these clients, a
Mhm.
decent portion of the work that we're doing is in trying to just help them to understand that if we can help everyone feel safe,
Yes.
then we can change their dynamic and their relationship, right? And some
Mhm.
of that safety means it's really important that your toddler doesn't crawl up and sneak up on your dog
Mhm.
because
Yep.
I can tell you when I would okay, real quick. So
Yep, yep, yep.
I don't like to be disturbed when I'm sleeping. Okay. Now, obviously, as a mom, that's a terrible feeling to have because you are going to be disturbed when you're sleeping.
Yep.
So imagine this. I'm sleeping. Oh, everything is nice. You get your toddler, pads down the hall, and stares at you at the
Mhm.
side of your bed like mom, 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 mom. And then
Yep.
I'm like, and I wake up and I'm terrified. And it's a good thing that I don't bite because
Yeah.
I would wake up terrified and shocked and like, ah. And so
Mhm.
I would express my surprise with maybe a jump of my body or
Mhm.
oh my gosh, you scared me. But a
Yep.
dog doesn't necessarily do that. A dog might go, oh God, you scared me with a quick bite. And when it's a child, that face is usually the first
Yep.
thing close to the dog's face, right? Similar
Yep.
heights. So we get a lot of nips to the face. It doesn't
Mhm.
mean the dog wants to kill the child or
Yeah,
bite
absolutely
their
not.
head
Yeah.
off, but it's a quick, non-emotional response out of surprise. And so
Mhm.
we just have to prevent that kind of interaction from happening in the first place. Then we can try to change how your dog feels about your kid.
Yeah. Exactly. And then, I noticed too, when you do talk to the clients about management and the do's and don'ts of how to interact, with how to have your kids interact with your dog, it does make a difference. Even sometimes that's all you need outside of like how to do this training, like to stop the nipping, is to get them on board. And just like you explained it perfectly, I try to explain to my clients the same way. Like put yourself in your dog's shoes. It's no different. Is no
Right.
different. If someone was in your face like that and you woke up, you're gonna go like that. The difference with a dog is they're not talking, they respond in a different way. So
Right.
just and always, I always encourage my clients to, what would you do? What would you do to change the problem? It's probably the
Mhm.
same as what I'm going to tell you. So what do you usually tell the clients? Let's talk about the training with the nipping. What do you ideally tell the, like, let's say, they're doing the management thing, but there's still some nipping going on. What would you recommend?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're going to hate what I'm about to tell you, but
Oh, yeah.
if there's still nipping going on, then there's something happening where they are allowed to interact, right? So
As-
this is the tough part, right? Like,
yeah.
so it's really easy to say like I I did everything you said and I still have the problem. And I'm like, well, if you still
Well,
have the problem, you're not doing everything
you
you
did
said.
I say. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Part of it is, are they hearing us? Are they hearing us or are they hearing us? Right. I know that
Yep.
sounds like subtle and stupid to
Yep.
say, but I think it's true. Like they really
Yep.
have to like believe in what we're talking about. Right. And here's the bottom line. The bottom line, and I have to tell them this, is that it is really hard to rehome a dog who bites a kid, and dogs who bite
Absolutely.
kids have a very short lifespan. And sometimes they look at me like I just said something really terrible. And I
It's
tell
a
them, listen,
reality.
you're
Yeah.
paying me because I finally have the confidence and the skills and years of experience doing this now, where
Hmm.
you're paying me for my honest feedback. And my honest feedback is, if your dog bites your kid, your dog's probably going to be euthanized. And
Yep.
so it is your responsibility. Now, in terms of the training, now these are things that you're asking about. I do think that management, even though a lot of people think we're just slapping a band-aid on the
Yeah.
situation, I do think that if we can get our dog, for example, to be comfortable on the other side of a barrier, that is training, because you
Yes.
have to help the dog do a behavior, right? Because some dogs will just jump right over that. And then we're like, oh my God,
Right.
now what? Right. And I'm
Yep.
like, oh God,
Yep.
okay. And I've had clients, and you probably have too, where you're like,
Mhm.
holy crap, I have to stack 2 baby gates. Like, this is some serious
Yeah.
business, right?
Yeah.
And so then there's other tools we can use. We can use leashes, and we can use other things
Yep.
to say, hey, dog, I need
Hmm.
you not to move closer to the child, right?
Yep.
And then we can have other scenarios where we reward the dog for behavior that we want them to keep doing, as opposed to trying to put out fires all the time.
Exactly, exactly. And I had a client once say it to me best, and when I was talking to her, because you really do, like in a consultation, I try to break down what's going to be happening. You have to follow the homework to see the results. You can't deviate. You have to follow it. And she said to me, "You know what, Pam? I trust the process." And I'm like,
Yes.
"Yes, yes."
Yeah.
She's like, it may not make sense to me right now, but I brought, just like you said, you brought me in for a reason. I'm not, you spent money. I want to make sure you get your dollars worth, and I'm going to trust the process. And I'm like, thank you. So just trust our process and that we're doing what's going to be best, and if you don't understand something, always talk to us about it. We'll help you and put it in a way that you understand. So, I agree with Michelle. Just managing your dog, barriers are ideal, especially when it comes to kids. If you can't watch them, just assume that the dog's getting into trouble with your kids. And so put them in a crate, use a tether. Especially a lot of times I'll get questions about, I'm just trying to relax in the evening. My dog's jumping up on me on the couch. I will tell my clients it's okay if your dog doesn't know go to mat and to stay there. You can use a tether to kind of keep them there. But,
Mhm.
give them a chance. Let them jump on you. If they do, you move to the other side of the couch and you leave them there. They will learn over time that, hey, I can't, in order to get this attention on the couch, I can't do that. Do you do any of that with your clients as
I
well?
do sometimes. Yeah. There's some
Yeah.
training strategies that I've been working on lately with some clients that that have multiple purposes. So
Okay.
you're probably like me, where clients will tell you they basically want their dog to be I call him a unicorn dog, which is like
Hmm.
the perfect dog,
Perfect.
the
Yeah.
dog that
Yep.
you
Yep.
Okay, so most clients, even if they don't actually do the thing I'm about to tell you, they want a
Mhm.
dog who can do the thing,
Yep.
right? Everybody wants a dog that they can bring with them to an outdoor coffee shop, and the dog will sit quietly at their feet no
Yeah.
matter
People
what
walk
is going
by.
on,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Okay. So a lot of people don't even do this, but they want a dog that can.
Hmm.
My interpretation of that for families is the dog that can sit on the floor when the kids are playing, right? That's the
Yes.
equivalent in my
Yes.
life, in the
Yep.
line of work that I'm in, right? And so I try to do a lot of work with families where we practice this skill where the dog just learns to hang out, that the dog doesn't have to perform things, the dog doesn't have to
Yes.
do stuff, where the
Just
dog can
settling. Yeah.
chillax at your feet, right? And so I try to teach them to just hang out, and we can
Yeah.
start it in an environment like where I am right now. I'm at my desk, my dog is at my feet. It's his nap time, so it's kind of cheating. But
Yep.
and you can have the dog on a leash, and every once in a while, if you want to drop a treat between his paws for being
Exactly.
mom,
Yep.
we can. But we can take that behavior that we practice at our desk when there's no distractions, and then we can bring it to the couch, and we can have movie night, and the kids are on the couch and the dog is at my feet at movie night. And then we can take it to Lego time, where I sit on the floor, the dog is next to me, the kids play Lego on the floor, right? So really what ends up happening is we try to set it up so that the cue for the dog to lay down or chill out is you sitting down.
Down.
So
Exactly.
I sit down, the dog can sit down. And I'm not going to like exaggerate and tell you that I've got this nailed, but this is what I am working on with a lot of clients right now, is this sort of pattern of I sit, you sit, we can all be together as a family. And I think that just helps the quality of life for family members who want to be together.
Yep, and that's a big one. It's like, okay, my cue to do this is going to be, and I tell folks all the time, dogs learn by what we do. Even if you didn't teach them a thing in the world, if you stay consistent with whatever you're doing each day, they will learn. I never taught my dog go to crate, but when a doorbell rang, you go lay down, and now he just goes. So that just goes with you saying, like, that your cue to sit down is going to be your cue for your dog to settle. And I do teach my clients that, especially in classes too. I teach that, like, okay, let's have the dog settle. You're going to do this at home. And just having your dog sit with you. And one of the things I run into, and I try to enforce this enough bars with training, you don't want to overwork your dog. So a lot of times, they will say, okay, yeah, that is a good idea to have my dog sit while I'm sitting and feed him treats. But then, either they'll do it really too long and the dog gets frustrated, or either be too short. So 5 to 15 minutes, that's, enough right there if you're training. So what do you recommend if you are working on that, and say you have a puppy? They're not going to sit for while you're sitting there while the kids are playing. What would you recommend in that scenario? Because a lot of the dogs that I work with, I'm pretty sure you do too, are like puppies or are puppies.
Okay, I'm going to give you 2 ideas.
Okay.
Number 1 is to keep training sessions like 30 seconds sometimes.
Exactly.
So sometimes people think I'm insane when I tell them this idea, but that's fine. That's how I roll. Sometimes I recommend you practice this when you're sitting on the toilet.
Yeah.
I know it sounds dumb. I even had a jar of treats on the back of my toilet. And I would sit on the toilet, and instead of like reading my phone, because let's admit we read our phones, even though that's kind of gross, we do it. Instead of doing that, I would take out the jar of treats, and while I'm peeing or whatever, I would reward my dog by putting the treat on the floor, which means they're not jumping, right? Because
exactly.
Direct to the floor to pick up the treat. And so the habit there, I mean, you're having to sit down because we're ladies and we sit when we pee. So we sit, we pull out the treats. So that's a brief session. So that's one idea to practice with puppies. Also, you close the door, and that way your puppy's not hassling your kids while you're on the toilet, because you can't watch if you're on the toilet.
Exactly.
Right?
And exactly. And to piggyback off that, if you guys are sitting here thinking like that's pretty gross, we go in the bathroom with our phones. The toddlers are following you in, and they're like, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." So what's to add another dog instead of the toddler?
Seriously. It's not. I mean, come on. If you've got kids and pets, you do not go to the bathroom alone.
Exactly. You don't. You just don't.
Real, people. Let's just keep it real. So anyway, the other solution that I would tell you, when you've got puppies, I love pens. I am a pen queen.
Yes.
In fact, I have one that's set up as a barrier because I have an old dog and I have a young dog. And so it is the same management between the old dog and the young dog as it is between a dog and a kid. So for me, having barriers is amazing, because puppies are annoying, and puppies want to get up in everybody's business. And if they're tired, they have tantrums.
They don't care.
So we have to prevent a puppy from practicing this obnoxious behavior. And the cool thing about pens, though, Sometimes we use pens for the kids and sometimes we use
Yes.
pens for the dogs. So if
Yes.
you've got, let's say you've got a baby that's still in a car seat, right? And you come in the house, you carry in the car seat, maybe your baby's asleep, lucky you.
Mhm.
You carry the car seat into the house. Why don't you just set the car seat down in the pen? Then you can greet your dog, you can play, you can do
Exactly.
whatever. The puppy is not going to go hassle the baby because we've protected the baby, right?
Yep.
So really, there are times when prevention makes the most sense and you're silly not to try it. And then there are other times when training is more important, right? But I think, like, if you are a tired, overworked, overwhelmed parent, use management first, preserve your sanity, take a breath. And
Yeah.
if you, that'll give you like enough wherewithal to be
Mhm.
able to then take any other action steps that you might want to do. But give yourself a
Yeah.
break and set yourself up for success.
Yeah, don't feel bad. I tell folks all the time, don't feel bad for putting your dog in a pen or a crate if you need that, break. It's okay, especially when you're dealing with the younger dogs. So let's just kind of wrap this up with some kind of, some advice for the folks when you're dealing with kids and stuff. Of course, we talk big on management is going to be key, folks. Like just managing a dog. And what we mean by management is just, putting them somewhere temporarily, watching them, whether it's a pen area, crate area. It can even be a room, belongs it's not stuff for your dog to get into. Your dog. Far as the nipping management too, as well.
Mhm.
And is there anything else you could recommend? Like say, um, you know, say they don't want to, because I have had clients who say they don't want to use a crate or the confinement because they feel it's too much. So would you recommend just a tether or just having them with you on leash? I have recommended that too.
Yeah, leashes can be really helpful, but there's one concern that I have when the
Okay.
dog is tied to something. If your kids are mobile, it's crucial that they never approach the dog when it's tied
Yes.
to something, because then the dog doesn't have consent and the dog can't say no thanks and move away. So I'm
Yep.
a big fan of safe spaces and enabling the dog to retreat and take space if they need it. So the only problem with a tether, and I have one right here because I
Yep.
literally show clients constantly what a tether looks like. But if a dog is approached by a
Oh
kiddo
yes.
and then they can't back away, and that's when we could get some bites. But I do love the idea of a tether
True.
where you're
Yep.
just saying, hey, I could have the dog I could wrap the leash around my waist, and that way the dog can't chase the kid down the hall if they're running and playing, right? But on
Yep.
the other hand, that's just something to think about. I would suggest, though, making sure your dog is getting enough sleep, because behavior tends to get worse when the dog
Exercise.
is overtired.
Yep. Exercise too if they're kind of off the walls. I tell folks exercise your dog if they're out of control. But just to go through some quick do's and don'ts. So you want to make sure that you monitor the interaction between your kids and your dogs, so that everyone's safe. You don't want to allow your children to interact with your dog if you can't be there. You want to teach your dog how to appropriately touch and pet and handle your dog. So they shouldn't be like pulling on their tail and ears and stuff like that. So to teach them how to properly, pet them. Also, a few don't disturb the dog while they're eating or sleeping. Those are two big ones. We don't want to be disturbed while we're eating or sleeping. Neither does your dog. Again, you don't want to pull on their ears or tails and whiskers and things like that. Do not tease or hurt the pet. That's a big one. If you want to play with your dog when the kids, there's certain games you can play that are better for kids to play with the dogs than, they're better for the kids to play with the dog. And also, you don't want to corner your pet and kind of block them off and stuff like that. So those are just a few general tips that you guys can kind of follow when when your dog's interacting with your kids. Michelle, do you have anything else to add before we wrap this up finally? It was
No, I
great
mean,
having
I
you. Yeah.
I would just love to say, like, at the end of the day, there are a lot of different ways that your dog and child can strengthen their relationship, right? And that
Mhm.
has to be based on respect. So if your child is really young, then we need to be aware of their developmental abilities or
Mhm.
not. So a really young child can't pet gently, and it's unfair for us to expect that, well, if I show you, you should be able to do it, because really young kids are grabby and they are slappy.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
we just have to be really aware of the child and the developmental stage they are in and what we can actually expect
Respect from them.
appropriately.
Absolutely.
And same thing with the dog. A puppy is a baby. they don't know how to make choices. So we need to set them up for success as well. So
Yeah.
you're juggling, right? And to know that there's somebody like Pam or somebody like me who specializes in this, we
Yeah.
really get it. And I like to sort of compare it to, if you need knee surgery, you're going to go to an orthopedic surgeon and not your general doctor. So
Yes,
Pam and I are
absolutely.
the knee surgeons of the dog and kid world.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's important to know that you can get help for specific things you need, and that, we have loads of ideas, right? This
Yeah.
is just the tip of the iceberg.
Absolutely. And so tell folks where they can reach you if they want to contact you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my website is poochparenting.net. And I have all kinds of services and a membership for parents that's affordable where you can get support. And all of those are links on my website. I also have a podcast called the Pooch
Yep.
Parenting Podcast. And
Um,
you can find all that on the website.
Well, thank you for joining the live and giving your feedback and a good information about dogs and interacting with kids. So thank you for joining us. Thank you guys for joining the live, and we will see you guys next week with another great topic. All
Thanks,
right.
Pam.
Bye.